Welcome back to Talk Nerdy to Me, a financial guide for entrepreneurs, where we simplify the complex and shine a light on the real financial challenges that small to mid-sized businesses face. And then what do? We talk about how to overcome them. I'm Michelle Delker, founder and CEO of the Stanley CFO Group. And today I have the absolute privilege of sitting down with someone who's not only a world-class business advisor, yes, that's you, but also a true force in the entrepreneurial space. Who is it? It's Topher Morrison. He's an internationally recognized speaker, the founder of Key Person of Influence USA, and an advisor to some of the most successful and growth-minded CEOs out there, which is huge, right? There's definitely proof in the pudding. But my favorite thing, and I'm very self-deprecating, he has a rare ability to cut through the noise, to clarify vision, and to hold leaders accountable to the version of themselves they're capable of being. I know that firsthand.
Indeed.
Topher, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on. I'm glad I made the cut for season 2. Not gonna lie, was expecting the invite for season 1, but that's okay.
Oh my gosh,
right. I'm a little hurt.
So
but that's okay. I'm gonna overcome this. We'll get through this together.
Topher, have you watched any of season 1? I was told that it was turned into a drinking game. It was very technical. There was a whole laptop set up. It was if you watched it, you might be constipated for a month. Do you know?
I did watch a couple. You actually had a co-host for a while, and I saw some of those.
Yes. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. So season 1 was really meant to tackle some key financial challenges that might feel a little beyond reproach. We use big words, and it could be daunting, I think, to try to tackle. So we wanted to talk through the technical piece of those, and then in the second episode, really bring in a partner that exemplified the gold standard. So like a banker or a risk mitigator, an attorney, something of that nature. This season, we've taken a slightly different approach. I say we, there's no mouse in my pocket, it's just me. But the approach really is more of a feature, a personal feature, without the financial rhetoric really being so front and center. I feel like we got a lot of that out of the way in season 1, which again, you can watch on Spotify and turn it into a drinking game. But now really focusing on those incredible partners that are front and center surrounding these wonderful entrepreneurs. And I think it's super important because what I've seen
I don't know. Now I'm feeling a lot of pressure. I have to step up and deliver now.
I hope you feel pressure. I want you to feel, no, you're absolute perfection. It's mind-blowing to me. What I found in my experience was that a lot of smaller businesses didn't really understand the level of expertise that they should be receiving, whereas a lot of larger companies, they've got those preferred vendor lists and they're very staunch with what they look for. Yeah. But to me, and I've told you this before, there's not one conversation we have where I don't leave feeling like I'm better off for having spoken with you. Always so thought-provoking. You understand the business in a way that no one else I've ever talked to does. And you're just such a gift.
Well, thank you. I think if that's true, and I would question all of that, it's only because I hang around some really smart people and I can recite what they've told me.
So that's not true. I mean, yes, you hang around really smart people, but no, inherently you're very well-read, very educated. You have incredible life experience. You've done so many things that I didn't touch on. How many books have you published?
4.
4 books. Yeah. 4 books. I know people that haven't read 4 books, so I feel like that's very impressive. Yes, I might be one of them. Yes, right? Big deal. And then wasn't there a run for mayor at a certain point?
There was a momentary lapse of judgment where, yes, I decided maybe I should get into the political arena and run for office. I ran for Tampa mayor and very proudly came in dead last. So, if you're going to do it right.
It is the best place to be. That's so exciting. And then Oxford University?
Yeah, after that miserable public failure, I decided, well, maybe it's time to go back to school. So then I went to Oxford and got my MBA.
Yes. Yeah, no small feat, right?
That was probably the most intimidating thing I think I've ever done in my life, simply because the cohort, the people that were at that event were just so impressive that it was intimidating. Yeah.
I love that. I love that you were intimidated. That's incredible.
Every single day I was intimidated, yes.
So I love this guy so much. We just happened to be in the Cotswolds in November, and he just happened to be in Oxford. And so we met up, and he my beautiful husband and two very feral children, we toured the city and learned so much.
I loved it. Well, first off, it is my second home. I've got a place there, so I absolutely love Oxford. And nothing makes my day more than getting to share what I love about that place with people that I care about. So it was a great opportunity. It was really cool meeting your family. I loved it. I had a blast. I hope that we can hit there again when you were in the Cotswolds and I'm in Oxford at the same time.
So on the way in, that's what my husband said. He's like, hey, ask Topher
cool.
if he's going to be there in November. It's like, you are ridiculous, but we will be there in November, so we'll try to coordinate.
Give me the dates. Yeah, I'll see if I can set up a flight. Yeah.
But now when
it doesn't, you don't have to twist my arm to go to Oxford, right? It's like, give me any excuse. There's a sale on some meat pie. I'm there.
But this time we bring Macy. So we have a puppy in the studio with us today, but she's being so well-mannered. She's hiding like on the floor by the table, but hopefully she'll make a cameo.
She's enjoying the cold marble floor, I think. She's like, yeah, I'm digging this.
Beauty.
We'll just see if she goes the whole show without becoming a pill.
Well, I mean, we could say the same for me.
Or me, actually, to be fair, yes.
So, adore you, and I know quite a bit about you, but let's start with your origin story. Tell us a little bit. I feel like we're talking to like Superman, right? Like, where did you come from?
So not the case. My origin story, well, it's funny because I could trace my origin story back to a high school class called typing or keyboarding or whatever it was. Yeah. I don't think I've ever shared this with you, and I will try to give you the abridged version because it can probably take the whole hour anyway. But I took a typing class because for why, I don't know back then, but I did. It was an elective in high school, and I took it. And I was actually really good at it. Well, then, out of high school, I got a job working at a company called Keytronic Corporation, which was like the world's largest computer keyboard manufacturer. My job was very powerful. It was to sit on an assembly line and peel little stickers of rubber feet off of a thing and then stick them to the keyboards as they would go down the assembly line. 10 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it took me about a week before I was like, maybe I should have gone the college route. Because this was just not where I wanted to go. But about a month or so into the job, the manager was walking down the assembly line asking all the women if they knew how to type. I'm dating myself now, but it wasn't offensive back then. And he goes past me and I go, Dave, I know how to type. I took a class in high school. I'm really good at it. He's like, follow me. And he takes me up to what they call the crow's nest where all the powerful people are at during the day. This was the swing shift, by the way. And apparently this company, every couple of months, they were so unorganized that they would run out of labels that needed to go on the keyboards. And then they would have people go up and hand type serial numbers onto these labels. Well, I was lazy. I didn't want to do that. So I said, isn't there a computer that can do this? And he goes, yeah, but nobody on swing shift knows how to run it. And I don't know why I said this, Michelle. But, 18, probably 18 years old at the time. I looked at him and I go, well, I could probably do it. I had never touched a computer keyboard in my life, but I just, for whatever reason, said, yeah, I could probably do it. And the thing is, it was so easy, an idiot could have done it. Like a monkey could have followed. It was just follow it. In fact, I turned on the computer, I read the prompt, he gave me the answer, I typed it in. I read the prompt, he gave me the answer, I typed it in. And I saved the day and got the labels to print, saving them from having to shut the plant down. And it turns out I ended up doing that like every month, at least once a month. I would have to go save the day and print these labels, which never was me doing anything other than just asking the boss what to put in the computer. And that kind of led to me getting offline and doing a couple of typing. And I got a job as an administrative assistant in the swing shift. And then I read, there was nothing to do on swing shift in that job. So I would just read magazines, and I read some self-help magazines and books and ordered some self-help tapes and started getting into that. And that's kind of what got me in the whole speaking business, was I just fell in love with personal development. So my origin is it started in personal development. In my 20s, I got into that and I just loved it. And then as I matured, getting into late 20s, early 30s, I got into professional development, and that became more my passion. Early 50s, I got into community development. That's where I thought of the ridiculous idea to run for mayor. And I found out that I'm better at professional development than community development. That is a weird breed of people.
It's interesting because baby Topher had some confidence, right? You weren't scared.
Yeah, blindly optimistic.
I think it's perfect, though, and that's what I think everyone else was lacking, right? Everyone was scared to try, but you weren't scared. Let me see what I can do.
I don't know. Anyway, that's kind of how I got started in the whole thing. Yeah.
I love it. And so, speaking, huge, right? You've helped so many people craft and curate brand and presence. And me, I mean, this is how we met, right?
Yeah.
You said, let's do your pitch.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And I started talking. And you said, why do you use so many words? And I was like, I don't know. Use less words. I was like, okay, what else do I do? And I loved it because you knew what needed to be done and you weren't scared to tell me, and really helped curate what that conversation needed to look like to hit those key points.
Yeah. You know what's funny is I am, in every area of my life, Michelle, I am wildly insecure. And the one area that I'm not know is how to communicate to the masses and how to get a pitch developed. And that's the one where I feel like, I'm pretty confident. I know what I'm doing on developing a pitch.
It's beyond that, though. I mean, we'll talk about it. It's a full-bodied experience. The pitch is great, but there's so much more. And I want to talk, if we could, about business advising. And you talked about the journey, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. So there are some things that have recently come into vogue in the last, let's say, decade, right? Like coaching in general is a term that is used often. And when you and I spoke, you were like, listen, I do not identify as a coach.
Well, I remember you actually asked me after I did the pitch consult with you, you said, do you do any kind of coaching? And my brain immediately went to, no, I don't have anything like that. And then, I don't know, but a week or two after that, I was like, well, I do a mastermind. Maybe she would be interested in that. And that's when I called to see if you wanted to be a part of my mastermind, because I'm definitely not a coach. God bless coaches. They are wonderfully skilled people. I do not have that gift. I think for me, and the reason why I refer to myself as an advisor, definitely over a coach or a mentor, is like coaches have the patience and the ability to sit there and ask you a question for 2 hours so you come up with the right answer. If I already know the answer, I'm just going to blurt it out. And I just don't have the time or the patience to kind of ask those kind of questions. I remember there was a course in my MBA which talked about leadership and coaching, and it was just like, this is just painful to me. If I have the answer, I'll just blurt it out.
But I want the answer, so that's
well, I think that's why we gel, right? Because you're like, don't pussyfoot around. Just give me the answer. I'm like, yes, I will do that. So I think there's probably the biggest difference between like a coach and an advisor is the coach will ask you the questions to get you to come up with the right answers, but an advisor will just basically give you the answer based upon the experience they have. Now, I guess the next question then would be, what's the difference between an advisor and a mentor? Mm-hmm. And I think this is a subtle one. There's two subtleties. Number one, I would say that I don't think I'm old enough to be a mentor. I think you probably need to be at least in your 60s, right?
Okay.
You know? I yes, I do have an excessive amount of hair growing out of my ears, but it's not at the level yet where I think it earns me the right to be a mentor.
Okay.
But it is getting worse, and that's another topic for another day. Anyway, for me, mentors, if you don't take their advice, they will cut you off. A good mentor. If you don't do what they tell you to do, they're not going to deal with you anymore. But as an advisor, I don't have a vested interest, right? If you want to pay me to get some answers, I'll give them to you. And if you don't want to accept those, that's on you. It's not on me. Where I think a mentor, they have like this emotional vested interest in it, and they just don't want to waste time spouting words that fall on deaf ears. And I think maybe the other difference too would be, like, I'm still making my living by providing advice, but I think mentors have got to a place where they don't need to make their living off it. So I do, and this is probably piss off some of the mentors maybe that are on this, the listening in. But
cover your ears, mentors.
I think mentors that charge are probably not a very good mentor.
So I think 100% you're on the money. Yeah. So to me, and I would say more simplistic and obviously far less versed in that particular topic. Coaching, yes, they want you to connect the dots, right? They want you to go through the experience and have the moment. Don't want to give you the SAT answers. Want you to go through the process and see naturally what makes sense and how you grow and develop. Yeah. Advising, like the Becker CPA prep, we're teaching to the test, right? Our goal is to help you pass the exam. There's so much information. It really does need to be well curated to ensure your success. And then mentoring, I agree with you. I think it's a place of enlightenment for both parties that are involved. And usually there's not like a check or an e-pay, right? It's I've taken an interest in you. We gravitate towards one another. And no, I'm not going to keep meeting and wasting my time if you're not willing to receive this information.
Yeah. By the way, that distinction in the difference between advisory versus mentoring, led me to create a mentorship pitch, which I am quite proud to say has never failed me. I've been able to use this mentorship pitch to organize and get mentors from political leaders to spiritual mentors, some celebrities. It's worked every single time, and I thought maybe your audience might enjoy my mentor pitch.
Of course, do it.
Okay, here's the deal, though. I will share with you my mentorship pitch under the condition that nobody listening to this podcast or watching it can call either you or I up and use the mentorship pitch on us because that's just pure straight manipulation, right? So that's the deal, is that you can't call either one of us up and use it because we're still in that advisory role. We're still squirrels trying to find a nut, right?
Yes.
So this is the pitch that I've used, and it works every single time. So it goes something like this, whether it's over the phone, over Zoom. In person is what I prefer because it's harder for somebody to say no in person. I've even done this over emails as well, and it works. And it goes something to like this. I say, I'll just kind of put the role on. So let me just say that I'm looking for you to be my mentor. Okay, so I'll use it in the context of a CFO, somebody who knows more about numbers than I ever will. And so I'm looking for you for mentorship. It would go something like this. I would say, Michelle, I've got a question for you. And I'll be honest, I'm a little bit nervous asking it because the answer to the question is probably going to mean far more to me than it will to you. And my question is this. I'm wondering if you would be willing to be my mentor. But before you answer, let me tell you why I want you to be my mentor. One of the reasons, and I have a whole list of them, is that I've noticed that when you talk about money, you do so in such a way that is non-intimidating. And one of the things that I, as well as I think probably a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, is just the financial end of business. And whenever I've talked to other people about money, all they do is they use big words that confuse me, and then I walk away feeling less than. But every time I speak with you, you have a way of just making me feel like I have hope that I'm going to get my head wrapped around these numbers. And I think that is a gift that very few people possess. And that's why I would love it if you would be my mentor. Now, there's a couple of rules that would go with this. Number one rule is this. I will only ask you for your advice once a month, and it will only take 5 minutes, and it will be over the phone. After 5 minutes, I'll let you know that we're done, and all I want is 5 minutes of your time once a month, and I also will promise you this. I will not call you the next month unless I can tell you exactly how I've incorporated the advice that you gave me the previous month. This way, you know, number one, I'm never wasting your time. And I'm going to be very specific with my questions because I only have 5 minutes, so I'm not going to beat around the bush. But number two, you'll know that you're not wasting your time because every advice that you give is going to land on listening ears and it will be implemented. And if I can't tell you how I've implemented, we won't have that call. So knowing that your advice will always be implemented and knowing that it will only take 5 minutes, would you please give me the honor of being my mentor?
Who would say no?
Right.
Who would say no? Because it's not only charming, right? Like there's so much flattery and I mean, everybody wants to hear how great they are usually, right? If you've had enough therapy, you can accept that compliment, but also it's just so structured and well thought out and you make it easy.
Yeah. Well, and there's some reasons why that was flattering for you, by the way. Number one, I meant it, right? And that's the key, right? Like you can't, like whenever nothing annoys me more, by the way, than when I accept somebody's LinkedIn request, right? And then the first thing they do is they vomit a sales pitch out. And they start it with an insulting comment like, hey, I really love the work you do.
An insulting
Like, what work do I do? Like, what work have you seen me do that you really like, right? I just think those kind of generic, like imagine if I would have said, I'd love for you to be my mentor because I really like the work that you do. Well, that doesn't have near the gravitas as me finding a very specific element about you that I can pull out, and because then you go, this kid's paying attention. Right. So it's not just about complimenting, it's about finding one specific thing that I can compliment you on that isn't even so much a compliment as much as an acknowledgement to where I can metaphorically say, I see you, I recognize your greatness, and that's what I would like to get a part of me. And that is irresistible to people. I think the other thing that makes that work well is that I'm very clear with the rules. It's 5 minutes, not a big obligation. Who doesn't have 5 minutes a month, right? And the other thing, especially this is so important to mentors, is they hate giving advice that people don't implement.
Of course.
Right? I shouldn't say I don't do mentorship. I do, but it's usually for college kids at UT, right? if they approach me, I'm like, yeah, let's just work. That's fine. And I've cut some of the UT kids out because they keep calling me up and I'm like, how did you apply last month? And they can't give me an articulate answer. I'm just like, yeah, we're done here. Yeah. Until you can tell me how you've incorporated my feedback, we don't have another conversation. So anyway, I think those are the elements that make that work. I hope that your listeners and your viewers script it out and apply it because it absolutely works.
There's a lot of psychology in there.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm on a rant, by the way.
I mean, go ahead.
So now
bring in the bourbon, Mateo.
Yeah. Let's talk about this LinkedIn thing because you lit up at that. You get those things as well,
all the
right?
time. Yeah.
I'll share with you an interesting story that happened to me less than a month ago. So I get this email, get a friend request or a LinkedIn request, whatever they call it. I accepted. First thing out of their mouth was, hey, I really like the work that you do. I'm wondering, have you ever thought about using video as a marketing tool to spread your message and make an impact?
Stop it.
Now, you get why that's so
Yes,
offensive to me.
yes.
Maybe your audience may not know. Virtually 90+% of all of my marketing is video marketing. I own a production studio.
Yes.
I'm constantly churning out video content,
Yes.
right? So what happened was that really pissed me off because, and I'll share with you the whole story. So of course, normally I would just probably delete them or say no. I was in a bad mood that
Yes,
day, right? So this
wrong
thing
day.
just lit me up. So the first thing I get on the keyboard and I start going, listen, I go, that kind of offensive, vomitive pitching is just so offensive to me. Clearly, you've never read my profile or you would have known that I'm already using video as my marketing tool. Thanks, but no thanks. Let me give you some advice. Next time you connect with somebody, maybe find out a little bit about them before you start vomiting your pitch. Well, it was pretty mean, right? Like I was in a bad mood that day. And of course, then she responded. And she was insulting, which I probably deserved. She corrected the typos in my email, which if I could just as a side say, mad respect. like if you're gonna go petty, that's like pro level, and I freaking loved it. It was like, oh, I did spell that word wrong, and the fact that she identified it, and I was like, now I kind of like her.
Yes.
Now I kind of like her.
Yes.
Well, I think we might get along because I love that about her, right? Anyway, she was like, yeah, I should have known better to reach out to somebody like you. You're so arrogant and blah blah blah, and you're so full of yourself, blah 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 blah, and it was deserved, right? But I got to thinking about that because I never want to dismiss somebody's negative feedback. I always take it on board, right? So immediately I was hurt. But I thought about that and I thought, am I arrogant? Am I like so full of myself that this was insulting? And what I started to think and realize, and you know this about me, you would never probably tell people publicly, but I don't mind admitting this. I admitted this earlier. I'm wildly insecure. Not on pitching, not on speaking. I feel pretty confident about that. But every other area of my life, I'm a whole wreck. Right? Totally insecure. And that day that email came, obviously I was having a bad day. I was probably feeling a little bit insignificant, a little bit insecure. And when her email said, I appreciate the work you do, without telling me what work I did, right. And then saying, have you ever considered video marketing? Clearly realizing she'd never read my profile. All that did, I wasn't offended because I was arrogant. I was offended because I was insecure. Right. Because I felt invisible. I felt unseen. And I think that was the thing that set me off. So while she still to this day thinks I'm an arrogant prick, so be it. The reality was I was just an insecure little man, and she kind of hit that nerve. And I'm like, I never want to be the person who makes people feel unseen. I want to be that person that when I speak with them, they know I see them. They know I acknowledge them. They know that I've found something worth celebrating inside them.
So first question, is she seeing anybody? Should we reach out to her? Because it sounds like there could be something really fantastic there.
Not to my knowledge. I don't know.
We'll give you a call, lady. Second, so it's really interesting because you advised me today, and I remember you were giving me something tough. And you said, I know this is what you need to do. I know it's going to bother you. I want you to talk to your therapist and work through it.
I do remember saying something. I was like, oh, crap, what is she going to say I said now? But yeah, I remember that.
I loved it. I loved it because there is a psychology piece, obviously, right? Yeah. There has to be that bit of an accent in what it is that you're talking through. but you're not trying to be an LCSW or a psychologist, right? We're very clear on, from a business standpoint, this is what needs to be done. But I understand that your personal feelings are going to get in the way. So you told me to take the weekend. It was a Friday.
Yep.
Take the weekend, think through it. I think I texted you on Sunday. I was like, I'm done.
Yep.
I've posted the things.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go. Let's do it. And I think knowing where you fit into that is really important. And then the other thing, besides discerning the difference between those three disciplines, the mentor, the advisor, and then also the coach, is understanding that chemistry, I think, is a big part of the entire relationship working. Because if for whatever reason you and I are not vibing, if we're not speaking the same language, I may not receive something that's really valuable that I need to take. But when you tell me, I trust you so much, of course I do, right? Like, well, absolutely. Topher said this is what I need to do, and he knows me well enough to know this is how I'm going to take it. So can you talk about that a little bit, that chemistry? Because for me, people say, oh, you're a CFO or you're a CPA. Great, that's what I need. And I'm like, I'm not the girl for you. I can assure you, you and I are a mismatch.
Yeah.
Like, let me call my friend.
I think this is very individual, and I think that there is chemistry. And for whatever reason, we got it. Like, as soon as we met, we got on well, and I think there was just a perfect jive going on with that one.
Do you want to know why?
Why? Yeah.
Because you corrected me.
I remember you saying that. Actually,
Yeah.
I remember you going, I think you even said something, you're the first person to tell me I'm wrong or something to that effect.
You were not scared to spank me a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But it was respectfully, and it was to get me to a better place. And that is what I needed in that conversation. I was out of my depth. I needed to tone it down a little bit, but you did it in such a way that it didn't back me into a corner. It didn't make me feel like things had been stripped away.
Yeah. Well, but let me go one step further, though, and say that that's not all me. That's a lot you, because for whatever reason, your vibe was such that I felt comfortable doing that. And I think maybe there's that connection that I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
It's like, it's not only do I have to feel comfortable giving the advice, I think I need to know that that person feels comfortable receiving it. And I need to feel like there's a safe, because there's been people that I've met before, by the way, that I don't feel comfortable calling them out on their shit. And I probably would be a crappy advisor for them because I wouldn't give them the raw, honest truth that maybe they need. So yeah, I think it's a two-way street there. Yeah.
So tell us, how does someone outside of the expertise, right, and the credentials and the experience, how can someone tell if that's something that's going to work for them? Do you ever walk into a meeting with someone and on paper they look great, and you sit down and you order your coffee, and then, it's actually a quick meeting because we're not vibing?
You know what? I think most people, I think it's different for everybody, and I think most people intuitively know it. But I think most business owners, and I don't think this is just even on an advisory, this could be customer, client, in any relationship, right? I think what gets in the way, and maybe this will go into maybe talking about some of your strength points as far as financials go. I don't know about you. Well, actually, I do know about you. This is not your issue. It is my issue. If my accounts payables are higher than my accounts receivables, I find that my level of discernment disappears. And I hate to admit that, right? But like, how many business owners do that, right? They know who their ideal client is. They know who they want to work with. But because reality is not giving them or presenting them all of those ideal people, they see people and they go, probably not my ideal client, right? Like, we've all been there. We've all kind of had that sneaking
yes, of course,
feeling, right?
Yes.
And we go, but because the payables are higher than the receivables, we go, screw it. Okay. Yeah, just this once. By the way, there's a wonderful book by, I think his name is Clayton Christensen. It's called How You Measure Your Life. I think he wrote The Innovator's Dilemma, which is the guy's a god in the aspect of innovation CEO. I think that was him. But in that book, he has a really interesting chapter called How to Stay Out of Jail. And the whole notion is the difference between marginal cost thinking versus whole cost thinking. And he talks about how in business, we tend to always think about what are the marginal costs, and let's just weigh the marginal cost. And if the benefit outweighs the marginal cost, great, let's just go for it. And he goes, no. You need to, when it comes to making moral decisions, it can't be marginal cost thinking. It has to be whole cost thinking. In other words, not what's the cost to implement this thing right now, let's lose money on it, and then we'll make it up in the back end. But marginal cost thinking in your life shows up as just this once. Anytime you say just this once, that's marginal cost thinking, because all it takes is that one, and then the moment you say just this once and you don't get spanked for it, it makes it easier to say just this once again and again and again. And then you're down this road where all of a sudden that's how you end up in jail, because you've just had so much marginal cost sacrifice that you're in that space. Well, I think most of us, we tend to get into that marginal cost thinking when we're assessing who our ideal clients would be. That is something with you. I cannot tell you how many times, how many times do we have conversations where you've said, yeah, they're not the right customer for me. And I've even kind of going, maybe you should think about that.
You do.
Sure about that? Right?
Let's
just make sure we're okay with that. And I think, and this is where I'm going to turn it back to you, and maybe I'm going to interview you and ask you some questions, because I think one of the reasons that allows you to be so clear with that and have that to where you're so selective on who you work with as a client is because you don't make you don't make dumb money choices. You make smart money choices. And I think here's why. Because you have a 13-week cash flow forecast, right? Like, you know how much money's coming in over the next 13 months. You know how much money's going out over the next 13 months. And as a result of you having that level of distinction that most business owners, let's face it, unless they work with you, probably don't have.
Y'all, he's pitching for me.
I am. Well, but here's the thing, right? Like, how many business owners, if you say, let me ask you this, you know the business better than I do. If you go to 100 successful business owners, and by success, let's put a number on. If you go to 100 business owners that are doing over $10 million in revenue every year, how many of them have a 13-week cash flow forecast?
Less than half.
I'd say probably 5, a handful, right? Because it's hard. It's really hard to get started. It's not as hard to maintain, but it's tough to get that thinking going. And here's the thing. Scared money makes stupid choices. And if you don't have that forecast, you're just guessing. You're just making some best guess scenarios. You get a little scared. You don't really know. And that's when marginal cost thinking steps in.
It's really interesting. Yep. There, for me, are 2 numbers that sort of govern everything. The number on the scale in the morning, right? Like, I track all of my calories because I've lost over 100 pounds, and it was before there was like the Ozempic and all of that stuff. Yeah, so I lost over 100 pounds about 12 years ago.
Oh, my
counting calories, right?
I'm so glad I came to show just to discover this about you.
Well, I'll show you a picture. It doesn't look like me. It looks like I'm wearing a suit. But so
And for the viewers and the listeners, by the way, 100 pounds on Michelle is a lot, because you're not
5'2".
big. Yeah, you're tiny, right? So, yeah.
So I was 230 pounds, which was unrecognizably heavy for me.
Yeah.
And when I saw a picture, I said, oh my gosh, I didn't recognize myself. And so 100 pounds feels insurmountable. So in that moment, I just said, I want to do better, whatever better looks like. And for me, better was about 18 months of counting calories. But what happened during that time was I was able to completely reframe my relationship with food, and then also reposition what being healthy looked like.
Wow.
And so after I lost 90 pounds, I found myself unexpectedly pregnant with our first baby, Reagan. So Mike and I had been married 13 years.
Yeah.
We'd always wanted children, but it had just never happened. And even though after 90 pounds lost, I had stretch marks and loose skin, I was able to get pregnant, which is something I hadn't been able to do before.
Wow.
So it was a huge juxtaposition between visual versus actual internal health. So that number is one, right? I always have to know where I am with that. And then the other is money and cash flow. I mean, those 2 things are the guiding light to making sure that everything in my world stays in balance.
Wow.
And it's just, I don't want to say easy, but so straightforward and objective, right? I might
make it look easy.
Well,
right?
no.
You do. Trust me.
I-
From the outsider looking in who struggles with numbers, like most entrepreneurs,
not.
You do make it look very easy.
Guys, we were talking the other day about something because I acquired a CPA firm as well, in addition to my CFO firm. And he said, well, you want your revenue per employee to be about blah, blah, blah. And I was like, how did you know that? That's exactly where we want it to be. Well, it's professional services, and I just figured with this and that. So don't let him fool you. He knows all the things, the knower of all the things, which is what I think makes you so valuable as an advisor in these conversations. Because it's one thing to say something in a vacuum. It's one thing to say, here's what I think you should do. But if you're not contemplating the financial implications, your advice is without merit, meaning, or weight, right? Because we are financially minded. A lot of the entrepreneurs that you've worked with, you've seen from from babies to some of them $100 million companies today, and some have had beautiful exits. Yeah. And so you're always in your mind contemplating the financial implications of that advice that you're giving. I want to ask you about the CEOs that you work with, because I think a lot of people come to you. And I think that you do have to be discerning, right? Because there's only so much of you to go around. What separates the ones that really figure out how to scale and grow, take what you share and expand upon it, and the ones that stall?
I don't think it has anything to do with me or what I tell them. I think the single determinant which allows a CEO to scale into bigger numbers is probably not what you might think. I think it has everything to do with their level of comfort on change and their ability to paint that change with colorful visuals for their employees. And here's why. CEOs, entrepreneurs, let's get out of CEOs. Entrepreneurs in general have a very high risk tolerance, right? They have a very good threshold for risk and change. They can, in fact, maybe I even separate the two. Every entrepreneur has a high risk a high tolerance to risk, but not all of them have a high tolerance to change. And I think there's your big distinction, right? You could have the greatest tolerance of risk and resist change, and your company will stall.
Yes.
If you can have a high tolerance to risk and a high tolerance to change, even to the point of maybe even being willing to embrace it, that I think is a scalable company. I'll give you a great example. Daniel Priestley, friend of mine.
Yes.
Yep. When his company, and I co-founded Key Person of Influence USA.
Yes.
And that was when we were a brick and mortar building. Then, again, stupidly decided to run for office. So I gave him back the license to that because I wanted to make sure that nobody in Tampa thought I was just trying to make my company famous, right? So Daniel and I had a great conversation. He was like, good, I'm going to support you. I want you to get this goal. I relinquished my license, my rights for the IP, everything. And then I ran for office, failed. Of course, side note to that story, by the way, in true bro code format, after the election, the day after, he calls me up and he's like, bro, well, he didn't say bro, he said mate, because he's British, he's Australian. And he goes,
you have a type.
Yeah. He goes, mate, what happened? He goes, you came in last. Like, if Tampa was a woman, she didn't even give you her number. Oh. And I'm like, oh, that hurts. But I respect it immensely,
yes.
right? You're like two bro code,
yes.
Hey, because true bros will kick each other when they're down.
Yes.
Yeah. And anyway, so I'm like, yeah, you're right. And love to him, by the way, because he says, listen, he goes, okay, you've got to do something new. We still want to bring you in. We still want you to consult our clients, blah, blah, blah. So we've kept this great relationship. But here's the real story to that, right? The real point of that story. After that happened, what COVID sparked up maybe 2-3 months after that, because the election was in 2019, April 2019. So by summer of 2019, I think that's when COVID was kind of full on. His entire company was a brick and mortar consultancy / training company where people would have to come into an event, spend the day with other people, work through these processes. And all of a sudden, his company was forced by law in the UK. And it's not like it was in Florida where it was shut down for 2 weeks. These guys were shut down for like 18 months. Yes. And a lesser entrepreneur would have just buckled. Not Daniel. Like this guy, him and his co-founders, they all were just like, right, what do we do? Okay, this isn't our reality anymore. It's dead. Let's rebirth. And they instantly got on front of cameras and started creating content, and they shifted from an in-person brick and mortar training company to a completely virtual training company online in a month. Like rapid. And interestingly enough, they discovered that they were able to deliver just as great content with that. And all of a sudden they were like, oh my God, now we don't have the expense of the venues and the food and everything else. Yes. And not only now do we only be able to market to Tampa, Toronto, Sydney, Melbourne, and London, which was the 5 branches, they go, we can go global now, right? And all of a sudden, his company, which was a respectable, good small business in 5 different cities, became a global enterprise in 30 days. And I see him every time we talk, like he has embraced AI, right? This is probably a topic we should talk about as well, right? Because AI is changing the rules for what successful entrepreneurs will be. And he has completely wholeheartedly embraced it while I'm sitting around going, I don't like AI. And I'm whining and bitching and moaning. And there's like zero complaints from him. And he's just pivoting. It's like, great, we have to, in fact, he even went to the point of saying, listen, we died in 2019. Our company's going to die again, and we have to incorporate AI into our tools that we use. And he's completely pivoted again. It's just inspiring to see that guy. He tolerates change way better than I do, and I think that's why he's going to grow and scale, and it'll be a $100 million company easy. Yeah.
So I definitely want to come back to AI. I have to wholeheartedly agree with what you said about risk and change. Mm-hmm. You said, you won't work with this person, won't work with that person. Well, we do a lot of diligence. And usually during that diligence process, we can get a good idea of an entrepreneur's appetite for both risk and change. And oftentimes we'll find that they know what the issue is already, and they're not willing to make an adjustment. And for us, it's like, okay, well, we're not going to take that on. That's just going to be an uphill battle if you're not refusing to cut the calories or exercise, and you still want to lose a massive amount of weight. So for us, that's first and foremost. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, when we're talking about organizations of a certain size, we also have to look to see how dynamic that leader is and the culture that they've built within the organization. Because when you're a small company and it's you or 2 or 3 people, turning that ship is totally different than when it's 300 people or 3,000 people. Mm-hmm. So if we have an entrepreneur who hasn't established really strong leadership and hasn't built a team that is rallying around them to support them when they come, with that rally cry, it's a different conversation as well. Yeah. People are often so averse to change, even what we perceive to be little change. It's like, no, that's my parking spot. Oh, I need you to park next to it. No, I want that one. Right. Oh, gosh, I don't know if this is going to work.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's a great observation. And by the way, I also think that is the difference between a great manager and a great leader. Yes. A great leader has learned how to embrace change and, again, paint that in a very beautiful light. Because, I don't know if I said this, great CEOs can tolerate and embrace change, but employees don't.
No.
So by nature, employees don't want change. And so that's why you can really measure the power of a leader for their ability to get people who instinctively resist change to embrace it. That's a powerful leader.
Yes. And oh my gosh, is that a job in and of itself? Do you know?
I mean, that is the job, right?
Leading.
A leader, if I were to paint a leader's job into 3 things, I would say that its first job is to think. And how many times do CEOs and founders not do that because they're too busy going through the motions, right? Like every entrepreneur should just have reserved, blocked time to do nothing but think.
He's not kidding.
Yep.
He's told me this many times.
Number 2 would be to enroll people into the mission. Yes. Great leaders can get that, and that's about facilitating that change. And then I think the third one would be developing assets which create leverage in their business to where they can maximize their efficiencies, which for most leaders, the number one asset that they can bring on and as leverage is team and staff and employees, and they just don't spend. There's a great book by Patrick Lencioni called The Motive. And I think it so summarizes what the mission of a great leader should be, which is their job is to take care of their team. And so the moment, a leader goes, oh, fuck, they're asking me for more time, right? The moment they're complaining about supporting their staff, they've lost sight of what their motive. The motive of a business owner is to bring out the best of an employee. Yeah.
So those are all the most successful clients that I've worked with, and at a certain point, they become so much more than clients. Like sometimes they become your kid's financial fiduciary, or they're making healthcare decisions with your husband because you do develop such a deep and intimate relationship. Yeah. But it's just such a change because, when my dad was a successful businessman, it wasn't really leading. Mm-hmm. It was managing and a lot of selling. Yeah. So much has changed. You really do have to have people that want to run with you.
Yeah.
And leadership is a huge part of your mastermind.
And by the way, then you could go like, I think it's John Maxwell's level 5 leadership. And not only run with you, but then eventually run ahead of
Yes.
you, right? Yeah, like
Yes.
that's the mark of a great leader is not how many followers they have, but how many leaders they've generated.
Yes.
Yeah.
And being able to inspire people to want to run faster. And then when they are running faster, to be proud of that, right?
Yeah.
Not to feel threatened, not to try to trip anybody, but oh my goodness, look what they're doing.
By the way, not only be proud of them running faster, but then also reward them and encourage them when they fall or run the wrong direction. I'll give you a great example of this. One of the local heroes, in my opinion here, Thomas Mance, the CEO of Feeding Tampa Bay.
Yes.
He has this, and I'm not going to do him justice when I say this, so I wish he were here right now to rephrase, push me off to the mic and go, let me tell you what I really think. But I will paraphrase one thing that really impacted me when I met him is that, and he says something to the effect of, he will never punish an employee who makes a mistake as long as they come from a place of aggression. And by aggression, what he means is they're taking the initiative, they're taking the leadership on, and they're going to make a decision about how to do something in leadership. Did I say leadership Tampa Bay? I meant Feeding Tampa Bay.
You said Feeding Tampa Bay,
yeah.
yes.
So he will never discipline an employee who makes the wrong call or mistake as long as they did it from the perspective of let's aggressively grow the charitable pool.
Yes.
And I love that, right? Is that, you know what, you never want to punish somebody if they're making a mistake for all the right reasons.
Yes, well, it's just like the IRS, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a statute of limitations for everything except for intentional omission or fraud. And then there is no statute. So they're saying, hey, guys, we get it. Sometimes you make a mistake. It's okay as long as you weren't trying to pull one over on us.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. But, well, by the way, so thank God I've never been audited, knock on wood. If they catch you in that, do you get punished or will they let it slide?
It depends on how far back it goes.
Okay.
So if it was like a calculation error, there's a finite period of time.
Gotcha.
And they typically won't look beyond that. But if it's a blatant, like you were gunning to do something naughty.
Also probably repetitive, and you did it this time and this time and this time.
Yes. They have no tolerance. And most of us don't look good in orange. So I would just say, don't do it. Approach everything with a good heart. We do talk about leadership so much, but there is a financial component to everything that we do. There has to be in order to remain successful. And one of the things I hear you talk a lot about is how folks can clearly articulate the return on investment that they're delivering.
Yeah.
You did this for me when we met in March of 2024. I remember saying, well, I have clients who have seen incredible wins. And you're like, what does that mean? I was like, well, we did this and we saved that. And you're like, quantify it for me.
Yeah.
And we did. And it was mind blowing.
Yeah.
And I'm a numbers person. And I had not come to that on my own.
Yeah. Something that Dan Priestley taught me. People will only pay for value they can see. Or maybe let me use a different word. People will only pay for value they can recognize. Mm-hmm. And if you as the vendor are not making that recognition easy for them, you're not doing your job. And you're probably putting the nail in your coffin because eventually they'll stop looking for that value. Mm-hmm. And this is why what we discovered with you is that for every $100,000 a company invests with you, they get a return of $1.5 million. Am I right on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dollars, yes.
That's insane, right? And so by putting that straightforward into your pitch, now you are clearly communicating what the value is of your service. Where, by the way, if you don't do that, imagine your pitch would be, if I were to say, well, how much is it going to cost me, let's say in the first year? And you say, about $100,000. I'm immediately pushing away from the table going, oh, that's a lot.
Yes.
But if all of a sudden you're going, well, how much I charge you is irrelevant compared to how much I save you and make you. Let me ask you this. If I could have you generate an extra $1.5 million in the next 12 months, would you be willing to pay me over $100,000 for that? Every smart entrepreneur or CEO would go, hell yeah. If I pay you $200,000, can you get me $3 million? And then you go, probably, statistically. So yeah, it's all about making and by the way, I think when you can pitch in a way that people can recognize the value, what ends up happening is a couple of things. Number one, and then, by the way, remind me, ask me, how do you communicate that value? And I'll go into that as well. But I think what happens is when you can communicate that value, you immediately separate yourself from all of your competition who are using words which don't communicate clearly what that is. And the moment you separate yourself to being one of many, to becoming one of a kind, where all of a sudden now I'm not even thinking of your competition because you've articulated so well your value. The secret benefit to that is that it allows you basically unlimited invoicing potential. Right? Because I remember I was speaking to a friend of mine, Dennis Ross. He's a ghostwriter, and it's just this like he's the guy that I call when I don't know the right words to say. This is my mentor.
So it's not ChatGPT.
No. This guy was like a songwriter for like Vanessa Williams,
Oh my
Boyz
gosh.
II Men,
Okay.
the Jacksons. Yeah, I mean, he's an amazing writer. Which, by the way, the world's best writers are always songwriters.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because they can literally tell an entire person's life story in like 2 minutes or less, right? They're really, every word has to be precise. And this is his God's given gift. He's just brilliant with it. So I call him when I don't know what to say. And he had this great analogy where he said something, I can't remember the story, but it was something to the effect of like, if I want to go see Stevie Wonder and I find out that ticket is $500, I'm happy to spend $500 to see Stevie Wonder because I'm not sitting there going, well, who's kind of like Stevie, right? Nobody ever says, could I go to somebody that's almost like Stevie but just a little less?
No.
Right? And that's because Stevie Wonder is God dang Stevie Wonder, right? And because of that, he can charge whatever he wants to for his tickets. Same as Taylor Swift, right? She can charge whatever the hell she wants because what teenager is going to go, Mom, you know, I know Taylor Swift's pretty expensive, so could we just go to somebody who's kind of like her but not? That's never going to happen.
No one.
Right? Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So that whole ability to communicate that value or that difference separates you from your competition. Once you're no longer in that realm of competition, your invoicing potential becomes unlimited. Charge whatever the hell you want.
My goodness. Well, that's really interesting. And it works.
You're not cheap.
What do you mean?
Right? No, but you're worth it.
It's an
right?
investment.
Absolutely right. Yeah. See what I'm saying? No other CFO can sit there and talk about a $100,000 investment gives them $1.5 million return. It makes you so unique. Which, by the way, now I'll go into that second question. I said, remind me. Yes. Sorry. Welcome to the Topher Morrison podcast. You're just sitting back and I'm just blah, 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 blah. The one thing that you can do to increase your credibility or your authority in the eyes of your consumer is to use numbers. And here's the weird part, Michelle. The numbers don't even have to be relevant to your authority. Mm-hmm. This is weird, but I don't know if I've ever shared this with you. I probably have, right?
Tell me again.
Yeah. So if I were to say, Michelle, I've been a professional speaker for a long time. I've even been recognized as, a pretty good speaker. And I've helped companies raise a lot of money in their pitches. Does that give me credibility? Maybe, but not a lot.
No,
right?
Because there's no stick. Like a lot to you might not be a lot to me. Like
Exactly
anchor
right.
it for me.
Yeah. So if I were to say something like, I've been a professional speaker for 37 years.
Yes.
Yep. I was even ranked one of the top 10 business speakers in Tampa Bay.
Yes.
And I've helped generate over $44 million in pitch funding.
Who says no?
Right. But here's the thing. People think it's the numbers that I'm saying that give me the credibility. It's not. I could have said, I graduated from Oxford University in 2023. And at 50s, how the hell am I? 50s. Oh, at 56 years, I could talk about my age. I could talk about anything. The words are always subjective. Unless you're speaking Latin, that's a whole separate conversation. So, but in the English language, every word, for the most part, has the ability to mean something else,
yes.
right? And so if I say a lot, if I say many, if I say something like that, it's left up for interpretation.
Yes.
But if I say a number, I don't care where you're at in the world, 3 always means 3. 3 is 3 is 3,
yes.
right? And
in any language.
Yeah, and so what happens is when you're using numbers in your pitch, it creates this feeling of certainty. Mm-hmm. Like, there's nothing to negotiate here. And that's what allows people to have that point of seeing the value, seeing the authority, seeing the credibility.
I love it because it strips out the emotion, which is my favorite part, and it introduces that objectivity, which is so important.
Yeah.
So important. So thank you so much for that. Mm-hmm. Could we talk a little bit about AI? I know that you and I have talked a great deal about it because there are so many ways to embrace.
Yeah.
But tell me how you see that changing some things.
Well, I think we tend to filter everything by our own world. So like I look at how is AI going to replace me? How is it going to take my position as an advisor? How could it replace you? Right? Because right now, as brilliant as you are,
No,
Michelle,
a
right?
bumbling idiot.
Compared
I got
to-
lost in the parking lot.
Well, literally, from a financial perspective, as brilliant as you are, from a pure numbers input output, you can't compete with AI either.
Of course
it's
not.
just too damn smart already. So I think the big thing that's going to stave us in our professions is there's one thing that, well, there's probably several things that AI can't do yet, but the one thing that AI is completely dependent upon is input.
Completely dependent on input.
Yeah. So the one thing that AI is completely dependent upon is the input. The output is completely based upon the quality of the input, right?
Yes.
You don't need quality input. So intuition is one of those things that humans still has above and beyond. Like we don't just make a decision based upon the input. We make a decision based upon the non-input or the like I'm not talking about output. I'm talking about the absence of input. We can still use that as valuable. And AI can't. So I think that we still have a little bit of a runway there. So what we can do is, as advisors, whether it's a financial advisor or a pitch advisor, what we can do is we can realize that we can utilize AI to process the inputs better.
Yes.
But then we have to come in and look at the non-inputs and find out where's that intuition. Because I guarantee you, there's been times, Michelle, where you've looked at the P&L, you've looked at the balance sheet, you've looked at the cash flow, statement of cash flow, and yet, despite all of those inputs, there was something inside of you, that gut intuition based upon you seeing this happen over years where you were just like, something's off. We need to do something different here, right? AI doesn't have that capacity yet.
That's the biggest part of the job, honestly. And when we talked about, making it a little bit more scalable and how it could be more streamlined, I really had to push to determine where most of the time was spent. And it wasn't in the analysis because that was the easy part. It was really in marrying it up with that particular founder, that particular entrepreneur. The numbers could say the same thing for 5 different companies, but based off of who they are and what their experiences have been, our plan is going to be completely different. And even sometimes if they say, they're like, oh yeah, that's good. We can look at them and be like, it's not good. We can tell from her face that it's not good, right? We need to pull back and recalibrate.
I think you've just hit the nail on the head with why you are specifically so much more valuable than AI could ever be, because AI will take those 5 different companies to give the exact same plan as well, right? They might change a little bit of the numbers, but it's going to be the same because AI is always looking for the means average, the most common answer that's out there. And I will tell you, I think we're going to see also, by the way, we actually saw an example of this. Don't want to get political, but remember when Kennedy put out the health report and it had just bogus references, right? Yes. I think we're going to see this year, we're going to start seeing companies that go under. And they go under because they relied too heavily on the output from AI that didn't consider the non-input. And it just delivers it so convincingly, they're going to make some choices, decisions, which is going to belly up their companies. I think we're going to see that.
I agree completely. I think it has to be to accentuate, not to replace. Yeah. So where it makes sense to pull certain things in, yes. But I know a small business owner, a teeny tiny little business who relied on like a free AI to do her 1099 reporting, and there were some errors and it had to be redone. It was like, okay, well, we can't just blindly defer to that, right? There has to be a little bit of additional consideration that's introduced.
That is the concern I have about AI, is because it delivers false information with such conviction. I know. It's so hard to question it, right? Because it sounds so smart.
So legitimate.
Yeah, and I think if I just wish there would be classes in school about how to instill within children the ability to question AI and to understand when it's saying something correct versus incorrect. And I honestly, I'm kind of a little bit worried for our culture that is just relying so heavily on that. I have one of my predictions about AI, by the way, is that we're going to eventually stop calling it artificial intelligence, and we're just going to shorten it to intelligence. Well, the intelligence said this, the intelligence said that, which, I mean, just think about the language from taking artificial out and just referring to it as the intelligence. You're kind of like one breath away from God tier, which concerns me.
So the rise of the machines.
Yes,
we should all watch.
Terminator.
Yes. One of the scariest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, by the way, if you read any book written by some of the originators of AI, and there's a lot of them out there now, Life 3.0, I could pull up my book here and go through several of them. Every single one of those founders that was the originator in some of the OpenAI aspect, every single one of them have a very dystopian view on what's going to happen because of AI. And I can't remember the name of the book right now, but he said everything that we had in science fiction in the 50s has now come true. For whatever reason, gifted, I don't know what, but science fiction writers have the ability to trend cast what's happened in the past, what's culturally now, and then what's happening in the future. And they somehow find a way to hit it. Here's a great example of this. Do you remember The Fifth Element?
Yes.
With what's his
Bruce
name?
Willis.
Bruce Willis?
Yes.
Yep. Do you remember the MC, I forget, was it Chris Tucker? I think the comedian.
Oh, yes.
Like this total androgynous, is he male? Is he female?
Yes. Very fluid.
Very fluid, right? And back then you were like, that would never happen.
And here we are.
And here we are, right? Yes. Like all of a sudden you're going, man, it's not as crazy it was back. I mean, we can't remember back when we first saw that. That was something just so shocking. And now it's just like, yeah, all right.
I think they're glimmers. I think they're glimmers truly. Yeah. And those are the little glimmers that are necessary to ultimately at a certain point be embraced and be a little bit more mainstream. Yeah. It's a really interesting thought, and I think definitely something to dive deeper into. Yeah. I am so grateful for you bringing this beautiful puppy and that incredible brain here.
I'm just grateful she didn't bark. Oh my gosh. She didn't, I don't think she's wet on the floor.
She's such a lady. You don't let Dad talk about you like that, Macy. We know you're a good girl. If people wanted to get in touch with you, and I know that you are very carefully curated, but there might be someone amazing out there that says, oh my gosh, I have to talk to this gentleman. How can they get in touch with you?
Well, I'm currently oversubscribed. I'm not taking on new clients.
Not taking on new clients.
So I would say probably don't. But let's face it, any entrepreneur who says that is also just a little bit full of crap. Right? Because let's face it, we are all squirrels trying to find a nut. So if there is somebody who's nutty enough out there to think that they should probably reach out, but they could just Google me. I'm pretty easily reachable. My name.com is a pretty easy way to find me as well.
Topher Morrison.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That's funny because we also hold a secret spot, right? We've got like this many people. Like, oh, we'll hold a spot for so-and-so just in case.
Well, and for the right vibe, you always make room, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm probably full of crap when I say that, but I am currently not right now. I'm not looking for any business.
Oversubscribed. Thank you so much for opening your beautiful brain and sharing your insights with us. I'm so, so grateful. And we'll have to do it again.
I would be honored.
Where Macy sits on the lap and also gets some camera time.
Good luck with that. We could probably put her bed up here and just lay her down and she might just fall asleep. But,
I am confident that our viewers have walked away with some golden nuggets from you. So all 20 of you that are subscribed on Spotify, thank you so much for tuning in to Talk Nerdy to Me. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do that so you don't miss an episode ever. We're here to make the financial side of business more approachable, more actionable, and more aligned with the growth that you're working towards. So until next time, keep nerding out.